Natty State Studio, the sports media palace of Mid-America, the Wolf of Center Street. Here's your host, John Nabors.
And welcome into the John Nabors Show here live from Natty State Sports Studios. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching in on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I am your host, John Nabors, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon, as we got a loaded and fun show for you today. We're going to be talking a lot about Razorback football, and I know that since we're 100 days away, it only seems to make sense. So we'll have some fun with that and give you some reasons to be excited about Razorback football. But we'll also have a very special guest, Jake Crain of Crain Company from the Daily Wire, covering all things college football. One of the more entertaining guys who covers and talks about college football. He's going to be joining us today at around 5 o'clock. We'll get to get his thoughts on not only Arkansas, but maybe some reasons he has to be excited about the Razorbacks, and also in the landscape of college football and some of the big storylines there. We'll have your Arkansas update. We'll give you some updates on the SEC and everything that is happening. So really looking forward to diving into that with you all throughout today. And, of course, if you want to get in on the conversation, you can easily do so by calling in easily at 936-246-2889. You can also jump into the chat, as we'll try to get to a lot of that, too, here today. And who knows, maybe we'll find some other ways to get you guys involved. You can tweet at me, too, at John Nabors Show. You can also jump in to the Discord that we have for Natty State Sports. So either way, it's going to be a great show, and we look forward to it, and appreciate all of you listening and watching in. So I wanted to get started, of course, talking about the fact that 100 days away from Razorback football starting up. The countdown is officially on. And I was really excited whenever 100 days comes, because a few years ago, I started doing these countdown deals for Razorback football, just posting some various highlights of stuff that would be popping up and possibly, getting people's attention for relating to certain players of numbers or names or whatever it is. So pretty excited about that. And today we did Rohan Gaines with a 100-yard interception return, pick six, all the way to the house against Ole Miss in 2014. Hold that thought, though, because we're going to bring that up here in a second. But some of you, I have noticed, aren't exactly head over heels excited about the Razorback football season. In fact, when I was posing the question to y'all on social media, or at least giving the idea that we were going to talk about Razorback football and the excitement level from it, where does it come into play? Like, where does the excitement actually happen? When does it happen? Where does it come from? Because for most intents and purposes, people have been telling me, this is the least excited they've been about Razorback football in a long time. They haven't exactly given any sort of idea behind why specifically, other than just they feel like we're going to suck at Arkansas. But there are some things, though, I truly believe that you can be optimistic about when it comes to Razorback football. For instance, you can look at what the changes have been made offensively, especially with the addition of Bobby Petrino, and be excited about that. Now, that may be it. That may be it as far as the reasons you point to it would be the offense under Bobby Petrino, but it is a reason nonetheless. I can understand if you had Dan Enos returning for another year, or if Kenny Guyton had been elevated to offensive coordinator, and how you would have felt about that. Like, I know how little of the excitement that would cause, because we've seen it happen before. But the fact that you have Bobby Petrino as your offensive coordinator, calling the offense, he's in charge, he's running it, I don't see how you can't be excited. And also, let's get it straight here, folks. The whole deal with Bobby Petrino when he was hired, and the Duke basketball game that happened and transpired, and all of that. As I move my alcohol bottles here, I just didn't know they even showed up. There we go. But you can't tell me that at that basketball game when Arkansas and Duke played, and the day that Bobby Petrino was hired, that you were not excited. That you were not chanting Bobby, Bobby, Bobby with everybody else. That you were not hoping to see him there in the stands. Was it simply because they hired him? Maybe, but I still think it's a lot more than that. I think that there is an excitement inside of you waiting to bust, but because you've been burned and because you have not had the greatest 10 years as a Razorback fan, you don't really feel good about being excited about anything. And I can relate to that. I can understand that. I went through the past 10 seasons for Razorback football. And your best year, depending on how you look at it, was either in 2021, where you went 9-4 with a bowl victory over Penn State, 4-4 in SEC play, or in 2015 when you went 5-3 in the SEC, but 7-5 overall because you lost to Toledo and to Texas Tech. Folks, that is sad. That is a sad state of affairs. That is sad when you have to present it that way, if that's the best years that you've had over the past decade. So I understand. But I firmly believe that with everything that Arkansas has offensively and with the pieces and the firepower, that this year, will it be one of the best years? No, I'm not going to predict it. But can it at least provide you with excitement? I think it will. I think it can, and I think it will. You are going to have an offense that's going to be completely different from what you've seen over the previous years. An offense that's actually going to have explosive plays, that's going to be truly balanced for balance sake, that's going to be more effective running the ball, that's going to have some really talented guys on the field, potential all SEC caliber guys like a Luke has, for instance. And you're going to have a quarterback that, you know, you look at his numbers at Boise State and Taylon Green, you're like, oh, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. Well, just wait, because, again, Petrino got to handpick this quarterback. Like, this was his guy that he chose. He didn't walk in like he did at Texas A&M and they said, hey, these are the guys, so you're going to have to make it work. Or he wasn't at Missouri State where he knew that he couldn't recruit quarterbacks at a high caliber level and had no chance of getting a Taylon Green. This is the guy Petrino wanted. And when you have Petrino as great of an offensive mind as he is, when he wants somebody and he gets them, I kind of want to ignore what he did at Boise State. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe that's a bad way. But I like to ignore what I saw. Because I'm like, hey, this could actually work out. This could actually be great. This could actually be something that gets people excited if this is the quarterback that fits the Petrino system that everybody is wanting to know more about and wanting to see again. The great slants and the ballsy play calls in certain situations, you know, all of that. That's where your excitement needs to reside. Because not only did Arkansas go 4-8 last year, which was bad enough, but the offense is what made that 4-8 look so much worse than what it actually was. Folks, there were games that you were in. I know it's crazy and it doesn't matter if you don't win those games, but you were in those games against Alabama on the road, LSU on the road, Ole Miss on the road. Like three of the better teams in the conference, for sure in the division. You lost by one possession at their place, and every single one of those games you were in. So it wasn't like you were getting embarrassed. Now, you did at the end of the year, for sure. But it wasn't like you were getting embarrassed by these teams that were better than you in their place. You were holding your own. So if you just had, I know it's always woulda, coulda, shoulda, but man, if you would have just had a Bobby Petrino coached offense last year, and with the defense and the improvement that they made, who knows what the year looks like? But that's not how it works. You got them this year. You got some new players in place. You got some transfers. You got some new assistant coaches, position coaches. Newness provides energy and excitement. Now, I will admit that there are reasons to not be excited too. I am not naive enough to think that Arkansas is going to be a team that, without question, without conversation, without any problems whatsoever, I'm not naive enough to think that they're not going to be, problems. For instance, I think that Arkansas, for all intents and purposes, can be a team and be a program that wins 6 to 9 games a year. Like, every year they should be a bowl-determined team. But because of the landscape of college sports and college athletics, it's tough right now. I mean, you added Texas and Oklahoma into this conference. The playoff is expanding to 12, which I think can really make it a lot easier for a team like Arkansas. But overall, when you go from 9 wins to 7 wins to 4 wins, and you still got the same head coach, and it seems like all the other programs surrounding you that you feel like you are just as good, if not better than, in cases like Missouri, like Ole Miss, that are doing better than you at a high clip, it discourages you a little bit. I get it. And I also understand that each offseason, there's producing of energy because of additions you make. Now, Petrino was the addition that you made that got everybody excited. But what player did you add that blew you away with excitement? I think potentially you have great ones. I think Jaquindon Jackson, the running back, is going to be really good. I really do. I think there's potential there for others as well, but you didn't exactly have the big flair, powerful, big time a commitment or transfer like you may have had in previous years that got you pretty excited. And even of the players returning, the only one that really gets you hyped up or maybe gets you in a way that like you're feeling pretty good or excited about him is Landon Jackson. And probably Luke Has. I guess you should say 2. Because I think Luke Has is definitely having it. But Luke Has is coming off of a major injury. And, Landon Jackson's a defensive end, but he can only do so much by himself. So you just don't have the players. You haven't added the players that have got to have you be energized. And let's be honest about this too. Sam Pittman is still your head coach. I know Petrino's the OC, but Sam Pittman's still your head coach. And for all that I do appreciate and enjoy and do find, as far as him doing it really well, Sam Pittman does a few things that I do like. But he is not, and it's not a bad thing, but he is just not the coach that's going to move the needle for excitement no matter what. He's just a ball coach. He's not big on social media. He's not big on trash talk. He's not big on, doing crazy things. He's just a ball coach. So I think all of those factors mixed in together makes it pretty hard at times to provide you some excitement. Totally. But here's the thing, and I know we'll talk about this with Jake Crain later in the show. But here's the thing for me. I choose to be optimistic more often than not just because it's a way of me looking forward to something. And I know some of you may be pessimistic about the upcoming season, but surely you want to look forward to it, right? Not saying lie to yourself, but surely you find things to be excited about for college football, even if it's not the team on the field. The tailgating, other games and other teams, Saturdays, high school football Friday nights into Saturdays and then into Sunday for NFL. Like, there's got to be reasons you have to be excited for this upcoming year. But I'm going to choose to be excited about it. I'm going to choose to feel good about it until proven otherwise. And I do believe that at the end of the day, Razorback football will be an improved team from a year ago. I believe this team is going to be good enough to make it to a bowl game. I mean, I know that the Liberty Bowl doesn't exactly move the needle for us either, but it's still something that could be nice. Nice to have. We'll get to some of your chats, though. But 100 days away from Razorback football. We'll talk about that. But, folks, I got to tell you about our friends over at Alumni Hall. We know that with Razorback baseball, it's going to be tuning up, and we'll talk about the updates from the SEC tournament because Arkansas will be playing tomorrow. You need to make sure that you have the best and greatest apparel when it comes to all of your Razorback fandom, and there's no better place than Alumni Hall right there in Fayetteville because they have the highest quality of brands, whether it's Columbia, Southern Tide, Peter Millar, Johnny O. They got it all. They got it for men, women, children, even pets. They got decorations, too, that you can check out. I mean, it is the ultimate Razorback shopping experience. And if you see something out and about that a Razorback is on it or that it is Razorback apparel and you're like, where did that come from? Well, it probably came from Alumni Hall because they got it all. So check them out today. You can visit the website at nattystatesports.com/alumni hall. That's nattystatesports.com/alumni hall. And you can shop all there, too, and get it delivered straight to your door. I know it's tough to get over to the Fayetteville location sometimes, especially if you're outside of the state. But just go and check it out. I promise you won't be disappointed. Again, over at Alumni Hall in Fayetteville, and shop them online at nattystatesports.com/alumni hall. Again, 100 days away from Razorback football. We'll get to your comments, but I wish I could play these clips. I keep getting demonetized on things, and it's kind of annoying. So I'm going to have to really refrain from doing it so much. But for those of you that were following Natty State Sports on social media, I'm doing the countdown of being 100 days away. And what I try to do with these countdowns and posting a little clip, a little highlight of a Razorback football play or game or whatever that deals with that number. And today was actually a 100-yard interception, return pick six, return for a touchdown against Ole Miss in 2014 by Rohan Gaines. And I don't know, I love going back and watching those clips because it kind of makes me remember where I was and what I remember watching it and everything. But I remember watching that play, and I thought of two things. Three things. One, the weather was miserable that day in Reynolds Razorback Stadium. That was awful. It was mid-November, pouring rain, windy, just disgusting conditions. But Razorback fans still showed out. Number two that I remember is Arkansas had just ended their SEC losing streak against LSU the week before when they beat LSU 17-0, rushed the field, took the boot, and ran back. And then they play Ole Miss, a team that was number 8 in the country. They lost Laquan Treadwell the week before in the Auburn game, but Arkansas beat the brakes off of that Ole Miss team. I mean, just trounced them 30-0. Trey Flowers was eating Bo Wallace alive in that game. And Arkansas was able to take advantage of all the fumbles that Ole Miss kept having and getting points out of them. And, of course, that pick six was just so cool. And it was on CBS, nationally televised. You got Uncle Vern on the call. But what a great game that was. And I really thought that was going to open up the Razorback era under Brett Bielema, keep it going, and never really happened. But either way, that's 100 days away. That's a 100-yard interception return. So I'm sure a lot of you can probably think about what you'll see tomorrow when it gets to 99 days. But still, pretty cool stuff to be able to revisit all of that and be just 100 days away. All right, let's see. If you guys want to get on the conversation, get into that chat real quick. Dalton's Motorsports is saying, save us, Luke has. Well, maybe. He's a great player. I don't know if he's good enough to save you because he is just a tight end after all, but he's good enough to get a lot of love and a lot of great plays. Hogfan 40 ounce says, I don't blame anyone for not being excited about football. You know, I don't either. I don't blame anyone either. That's the thing when I've talked to people just casually watching the show or see me out and about or whatever. You know, they always want to talk about basketball. They'll sometimes talk about baseball. And in football, they're just kind of like, It's like, I get it. Trust me, I get it. That's why I'm not mad about anybody if they don't want to be excited about it. Thomas says, I feel like it's just a holder season. We know there's change one way or the other next year, and we just want to get the season over with and see what's next. You know, it could be, but I still think that listen, you got one of the best home schedules you've had in SEC play in a long time. Like, I'd be hard-pressed to find a better home schedule than what you got this year. I mean, you get LSU, Ole Miss, Texas, and Tennessee, and Fayetteville. That's pretty awesome. So, again, throw away the product on the field. At least the home games will be really fun. Tailgating should be a lot of fun. Hopefully it doesn't end up being... You watch, it's going to be a bunch of 11 a.m. games. Shoot me. Punch me in the face. Sean says, the SEC has nothing to do with us and our inferior players. Nabors buys the Kool-Aid every single year, just like I used to, but no more for me. I have to see it to believe it. That, Sean, I think is a type of feel that many Razorback fans, if not most Razorback fans, feel right now. They're like, hey, we're in wait and see mode. You better show us something. Show us something before we want to, get excited about anything. Wonder Bread says, I think there's a difference between drinking the Kool-Aid and just being excited to see what happens. Another great point by Wonder Bread. Look at that. A lot of people coming up with some great points here. I totally agree. Because there is a big difference. There's a huge difference. Like, you can be excited while also being hopeful. You can be excited about the year, knowing in the back of your mind it's probably not going to be great, but hopeful that you're wrong and hopeful that things maybe go your way. Because I don't care what anybody says. Take 2021, for example. I don't remember anybody saying that Arkansas was going to win 9 games that year. Nobody. I'm the only one. I've not been right many times, but I was right that year at SEC Media Days when I picked Arkansas to finish 3rd in the West because they did. Everybody said, oh, you're just a homer. Well, they did it that year, dadgummit. But still, you didn't expect anything going into that year. You didn't expect 9 wins. But when you got it, you're like, all right, let's go. Felt really great. Mr. Warlight says, Sam Pittman's biggest quality is he's really nice. I think there's more than that. I think that he's also a guy he's had success as a coach in the SEC. I think he knows offensive lines, and I think now he's taken over more of a personal role in the offensive line. I think he's done a good job of recruiting for the most part. I know he works really hard. It's not like he could easily just say, I'm done, taking the season off, don't care because I'm going to get fired anyway. Like, that's crazy. Craziness. Jeremy says, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid too, John. Hey, I'll keep drinking the Kool-Aid. And I don't care what anybody says. It's Bobby Petrino. Bobby Petrino. Bobby Petrino is calling your offense, folks. Bobby Petrino is calling your offense. You cannot tell me that does not provide a major level of excitement. That particular thing alone. Porkenstein says, the officiating from 2008 and 2010 ruined it for me. I got some excited, but getting like it was before it isn't happening. Well, I mean, the officiating shouldn't ruin your joy of Razorback football or your excitement. I mean, trust me, I was pissed off about the officiating during that time too, but I don't think I'm going to use it to say, hey, I'm not going to be enjoying my Razorback football anymore. There's many reasons. Thank you, Wonder Braze. As I'm starting to think some of y'all don't know what drinking the Kool-Aid means. John is sipping on the off-brand pink lemonade that tastes funky, if anything. Sure. Didn't do that. Drinking that great value mixed tropical frozen from concentrate drink. Yeah, we'll go with that. Porkenstein says, wasn't that off Bo Wallace? It was. Felt really good, too. Rhett Winter says, let's be honest, John, do we kind of want to lose? Do we really want to have a reason to keep Pittman around? I will never be somebody. Yeah, because to me, would you rather go 8-4, 4-8 again? I mean, be honest. Would you rather go 4-8 this football season, or 8-4? I'd rather go 8-4. Like, who cares if it means, we got to keep Sam Pittman around? Who cares? I'd rather the season be successful and I enjoy a football season, because it's been a while since I've been able to enjoy a full-fledged football season. Like, when I went to the baseball game the weekend of Mississippi State, and I was there on that Sunday game, and I was in the stands, and I actually got to cheer and feel good at the end of the game. I'm like, man, this feeling, I forgot what it was like for a long time, being there in person to enjoy a game. Because basketball was so bad. I mean, you had the Duke game, but Basketball was so bad. Football was so bad. It's just nice to feel good. I want to feel good when I go to games. Bear fan says, winning starts on the lines. Those got to dress, plus the freshman linemen are developing. The future is bright. I like the optimism. Blake says, I'm excited for football. It'll get us one step closer to basketball. Oh, and excited to see BMFP back. Yep, BMFP. Bear fan also says, Bobby P knows how to do in-game adjustments. Watched him do it everywhere he's been, and that will bring in more wins. Yep. I agree. I think Bobby Petrino, I know Bobby Petrino is the guy. He is the guy. And let me just say this from the spring practices that I watched personally. What I saw at those spring practices, I'm not saying that Bobby Petrino ran the practice like the head coach. Not saying that. But I certainly got the vibe based on how the roles were being handled, that Sam Pittman was like, hey, I'm going to go over here with Mateus, and we're going to make sure that this offensive line is good to go. Me and Mateus are going to work together because we got to make sure that if the offensive line's not good to go, then it's all for naught. I'm going to be over here. Coach Petrino, the offense, you handle everything else. I mean, that's truly what it looked like to me. It was like the head coach is over there focusing on the thing that he knows how to do and he has to make sure is good. And then Petrino handled everything else. And then defensively, you kind of had the same thing. I know Marcus Woodson was very vocal out there. Obviously, Travis Williams still the DC. But there was the vibe that Pittman was humble enough to not be the guy that's like has to be in and on everything. Like he would talk to guys and stuff, but he was not having to be on everything. So that's what I'm at least excited about, because he just kind of handed it to Petrino. He was like, hey, Petrino, do your thing, my man. Do your thing. Yeah, even Mr. Warlight says, he's like, Petrino is secretly leading the whole team on paper at Sam Pittman, but behind the scenes, we know it's like the Clinton presidency. Bobby is Hillary. Well, let's not get too political here, because I don't like that's going to just flood up the chat. Here's the thing, though. If you think that, though, and the season goes awry, are you going to say, well, I guess then it's not Pittman, it needs to be Petrino that gets fired? Because I feel that's what I do feel bad for Pittman. If this season succeeds and if it goes well, and when I say well, get to that 7 to 8 wins, like something crazy. If you get to that point, Petrino's going to get all the credit, 100% of the credit. But if it goes badly, if it goes 4-8 again, then everyone's going to blame Sam Pittman. He can't win for losing. And it's sad. I get that it's part of it. It's part of being a head coach, and especially when you bring in somebody like Bobby Petrino. But still feel bad for him. I wish it didn't have to be that way, but it will be. And Jeremy says, might not be a popular opinion, but I hope he's here 10 years. That means we're winning. Talking about Sam Pittman? Yeah, because I'm telling you, folks, if I'm not going to call for anyone's job yet. But if Sam Pittman does not make a bowl game this year, there will be a change. 100%. If he does not make a bowl game this year, he will be let go. And I don't even know if he has to be let go. He may, just knowing how he is and how self-aware he is, he may just step down. It could be something like that. But I still believe, and I still hold, I have no proof of this, evidence of this, or any inside knowledge. I just believe that even if the season goes well, I still think Pittman may go ahead and retire. Just based on the vibes I've gotten from him in these press conferences. Like, if you look at how he was when he was the Arkansas head coach in years 1 and 2 and looking at it from what it was in 3 and 4, he's completely different. Completely different. He was happy. He was having a good time. He was laughing it up. He was chuckling. He was talking about cold beer. People are like, well, yeah, because he was winning. Well, even in 2020 when he went 3 and 7, he was still doing those same things. And he hasn't been doing that anymore. And I know for a fact that a lot of it has to do with these off seasons where you're having to keep people from poaching your team. You're having to basically have every player ask for or demand more NIL each and every offseason. And it just becomes to where it's not what Pittman signed up for. So that's just the vibe I get. I get the vibe that he may end up moving on. And who knows? Maybe, I guess the scenario I felt like in my head is like Sam Pittman steps down, Barry Odom becomes the head coach of Arkansas and keeps Bobby on as OC because if y'all remember, Barry Odom hired Bobby as his OC at UNLV for a split second. I could honestly see that happening. I don't know about y'all, but I could see that happening. I could see a scenario where Pittman steps down, Odom comes in, keeps Petrino. Odom makes Michael Schur the defensive coordinator, who was the linebacker coach at Arkansas. So I could see that happening if it happened. But I'm with y'all. I want to see Arkansas succeed. I want them to have a good year this year because it makes my life easier, makes y'all's life easier, makes my job a lot easier, a lot more entertaining, a lot more interesting. Because there's nothing worse than having a bad football season. Like, nothing. And unfortunately, Arkansas's had way too many of those here recently. So, yeah. H-Fan says, nobody wants Barry Odom. Come on, that's 6-6 forever. I mean, you can say what you want, but I felt like he did a pretty decent job at UNLV taking over a program that was like 1-11 and then immediately taking them to a double-digit win total. He also went 8-4 at Missouri, and that's when Missouri was giving him zero support. So I don't think it's 6-6 forever. Like, I think it could be a lot. I don't think it'll be as bad as what some of y'all think. But then again, I never think anything is as bad as what some of y'all think. That's just how it is. Anyways, we'll get to more of your calls and your messages, and also some I want to talk about with postseason play. And we'll give you an update on the SEC tournament here in just a segment. Folks, I got to tell you about Superior Contracting and Development, our friends down there at Valonia. They are licensed and residential for doing all sorts of construction to your interior and exterior. All right. And we know that during this time of year, a lot of you are looking to expand into your home. Or maybe you're like, you know what? We need a privacy fence because we want to build that pool that we want to go skinny dipping in and we don't want anyone seeing it. Well, guess what? Superior Contracting and Development, they're going to help you out with that. They do all of it. They do fencing. They do drainage. They do knocking down walls inside of your house. Everything that you could possibly want with your home, they do. And even though they're based out of Valonia, they service the entire state of Arkansas. So it's not just Central Arkansas. 4 corners of the state, they're going to help you out. So give them a call today at 501-453-3053. That's 501-453-3053. You can also email them at contracting@superiorark.com, and you'll get a real person to talk to, a real person in real time. So make it happen with Superior Contracting and Development. Again, call them today at 501-453-3053, official partners of us here at Natty State Sports. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll get to some postseason talk as well as some more Razorback football talk here on the John Nabors Show. So stay with us.
We're not done yet either. So don't be satisfied because we're not done.
Hey John, Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrats. I added 2-parter if that's okay. You mentioned Arkansas. Eric.
Why do you always talk about Arkansas? But go ahead.
Well, why do you always talk about Kentucky?
You missed it. You missed it. You missed it. Just tell me you missed it. I'm not going to go there with you, Dave. Why not?
And that will be the last question I answer with that hat on.
Oh, shoot.
That is why Arkansas is fantastic.
Yes, sir.
You know, and I like, I didn't like the game, but I'm glad I was able to walk off the floor again and deep inside and have that funny feeling that, hey, one more time, Horns.
Best guys. I know it's a tough time for you. The coach is gone, but you got a new coach now, and you got to listen to what he says. Okay, I know you're thinking, oh, who is this new guy? Where's the other guy that crashed the motorcycle? We like him better. He was cool or whatever. Forget about all that. Listen to the new coach and get out there and win some games.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
You guys act like it's... Pick it up a little bit. Okay? Get your chin up. Smile! Smile! Okay? Dang, you guys, all right? If not, I'm not talking.
Big Red, so excited. Big Red. Oh.
Guys, I got just one thing I want to say to you. Touchdown, Arkansas!
I was a teacher today. Told those boys, welcome to the SEC.
Well, Fayetteville is 1,843 miles away, but the call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
Well, stick my dick in the mashed potato. Go Hogs.
Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas.
Every time you put a mic in my face, I'm going to say Arkansas.
The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
All right, welcome back into the John Nabors Show here live from Natty State Sports Studios. Appreciate everybody listening in and watching in on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. As we've been talking a lot of football for the Razorbacks today, as they will be, doing their thing here in the summertime, which is getting to have some summer workouts and everything. So it's an exciting time for that landscape. But a few things that are going on here in the sports landscape that we know the SEC baseball tournament, for instance, is going on, and Arkansas was going to be facing off against the winner of Alabama and South Carolina. Well, South Carolina won 10-5. So that's who Arkansas will be facing off against. I'm actually looking forward to not SEC tournament, but just to see where Arkansas gets seeded. Most polls have them at the 4, 5, 6 range, depending on who you look at. So I guess it's safe to say that they'll be 5th, roughly, the national seed. So I think that'll be good. And then you also have to consider about who will be the super regional potential matchup. Because if Arkansas is a 5 seed, who's going to be the 12 seed? That's also something to be interested in. But, hey, we're going to find out here in just a few days. But either way, Arkansas is going to be taking on South Carolina. Guess we'll see. Guess we'll find out. All right, so a few things on y'all's chat, because, again, we've been talking some football. Some of y'all have been crazy with it. Wonder Bread says, I don't see why y'all think donors will do the same thing that happened to Cal. That was literally one donor who typically does more for the lesser sports anyways. Yeah, the people that think that everybody and the boosters and all that for Arkansas are just going to back up the money truck and give out a bunch of money to football that's just not real. It's not real. I wish it was, but it's not real. And I think that if it ends up being a new coach after Sam Pittman, maybe somebody does back it up. Like, say if the whole situation that people keep bringing up of, what if Bobby Petrino takes over after Sam Pittman bounces out? Like, what will that look like? What will that be like? Well, maybe if Petrino takes over, there'll be some donors that'll be like, well, we love us some Petrino. Maybe old Frank Fletcher down at the Riverfront Steakhouse. Maybe down there at Little Rock in Central Arkansas, maybe he'll back up the money truck and try to do it. Who knows? But I just think it's a little, I'd be surprised if people were just right now doing it for football. But if a new coach comes in that inspires people, gets people piped up and excited, then maybe, just maybe, it'll be somebody who's pretty excited enough to want to put in all their money on it. At least that's what I'm hoping for. So, let's see. Let's go to the phone lines. So we got a caller here from the 870. Called in just about a week ago, I guess was the last time. But from I guess it's Trey and Harrison. What's up, Trey?
How you doing, John?
Man, I'm doing awesome. How about yourself?
Doing good. I just wanted to touch on the Arkansas football. I'm really excited about them. Like I said, I think the last time I called in, I've never seen a Bobby Petrino offense and Arkansas colors, but I just wanted to get your guys' number one rival for Arkansas, because I know Ellis is LSU. I don't know what Curtis and Scotty's are, or yours. Mine's A&M. I think I've hated A&M my entire life. I think I came out of the womb screaming, I hate the Aggies.
So Texas A&M is the one that you would feel like you would classify as the rivalry.
Yeah, that word, the Texas Shorthorns.
I'll say this. I don't think I don't have one rival because I felt like Arkansas can just hate everybody equally. I think that would be a fun way to just approach it, just Arkansas versus the world. But here's the thing is like, I don't think there's just been one specific team I've hated. There's been reasons I've hated a team. Like, for instance, Ole Miss. You know, I've hated Ole Miss for a lot, and a lot of it had to do because of Houston Nutt being there. So, you know, it stems from that. I hated Tennessee for a while because of Fat Boy Fulmer doing what he did, and, of course, the Sternover game and all of that. I hated them for a bit. I have hated A&M, though. Hated A&M. I've said this before. The only time I've ever almost got into a physical altercation at a football game was because of Texas A&M fans. That's happened almost twice. So I don't think that there's one that you can put on it. However, I think that because of Texas being back into the mix and possibly being on the permanent schedule for Arkansas moving forward, hopefully, maybe that could come back and where people can develop that hatred. But, yeah, I guess, I don't know. I guess if I had to say one right now, it would, for me personally, it would have to be probably Texas A&M. So maybe I'm with you on that.
Yeah, John, I side with you too. I hate everybody who's not the Razorback. I don't care if you're Fairleigh Dickinson. If you're not wearing hog red, I hate your guts.
Hey, that's a fair assessment of it, man.
Yeah. But thank you, John.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for calling in, Trey. Always good to hear from you. Yeah, the rivalry for Arkansas is the ultimate question that everybody is always going to ask, and you're always going to get a different answer. Some people are going to say Texas. Some people are going to say LSU. Some people are going to say A&M. Like, we just need to get to the point where we don't feel like we have to have a rivalry, all right? You just don't have to have one. It's okay. Just make everybody your rivalry. Hate everybody equally. And it'll be fine. But I think it also changes depending on the sport because Arkansas in basketball, I think Arkansas Kentucky is definitely there, especially now. I think Arkansas in baseball, you know, the Tennessee angle's been kind of fun, but the Ole Miss has had some really great games. LSU's had a great rivalry in that too. So, yeah, I mean, it could go a lot of different directions. I'll leave that up to y'all's interpretation of what you think. Blaine says, I saw an article about A&M in talks with the Big Ten. Any truth to that? No. No. I mean, I'm not saying that there wasn't an article of somebody saying it, but there's been people that have been saying Arkansas should join the Big 12. And if you want to talk about something that triggers me up, you know what, like that is the stupidest thing that I constantly gets thrown around that I wish people would stop. Like, and I'm talking about national writers, like respected journalists who keep writing this, like the yearly thing of Arkansas needs to join the Big 12. Why? Well, because they struggle in football. They haven't always struggled in football. They haven't. They've done really well in the SEC. In fact, since they've joined the SEC, they have played in 3 SEC title games. Ole Miss has not played in 1. Mississippi State played in 1, and the only reason they did play in that 1 is because they held the tiebreaker over Arkansas. I think South Carolina's played in 2, maybe. So my point is like these people that think that Arkansas needs to leave the SEC is just dumb. It's just dumb. You dominate all these other sports, so there's no reason why you can't dominate that. In fact, I put out I shared a tweet or shared an Instagram post from, I want to make sure I get this one right. Shared an Instagram post from Razorbackology, and he had put up the most SEC championships in the regular season over the last 10 years in all sports. Arkansas leads the way at 53. 53. Next is Florida at 46, and then after that is A&M at 17. Now, granted, let's be honest, track is what dominates it for Arkansas. In fact, Arkansas has won the SEC regular season women's indoor track and field 10 straight years in a row. They won it in baseball twice, softball twice, golf once, women's golf once, soccer 4 times. So, I'm not going to sit here and try to say, hey, well, Arkansas does all this, but also acknowledge that it is track. But who cares if it's track or not? They've done it. They've won 53 regular season SEC championships, which is more than any other team in the SEC, at least by Florida by 7. And then after that, no one's even close. Arkansas has 53, Florida has 46, A&M has 17, Alabama has 16, Georgia has 14, Kentucky has 14, Auburn 12, LSU 11, South Carolina 10, Tennessee 9, Vanderbilt 7, Mississippi State 4, Ole Miss 3, and Missouri 1. So there you go. There you go. Thomas says, College Football Insider Greg Swan posted on social media on Sunday night that a Chicago-based Big Ten conference source told him a Texas school would be joining the conference by 2026. Oh, well, I don't think it would be Texas A&M. Texas A&M would be stupid to leave the SEC. I could see it being, Texas Tech, Baylor. I don't think TCU is a big enough deal. Maybe one of those schools. Maybe Houston. I know that Houston just joined the Big 10 or Big 12, but to go to the Big 10, that's a huge market. So, H-Fan says, how many track SEC title shirts do you got? I bet 0. You would have a football SEC championship shirt. Actually, I do have a track championship shirt. Thank you. I have one. Just saying. I celebrate all championships. Thank you for trying to call me out on it. I appreciate it. Yeah, if you want to call in, 936-246-2889 is that number. The article said A&M wanted away from the Longhorns. Well, again, I don't disagree with that, but that is a dumb reason to leave the best conference and the biggest moneymaker because you want away from Texas. Who cares? What is Texas going to do to you? Kind of shows how that's a wussy thing of it. That's weenie stuff, if that's the case. Sean says, John, I'm behind. You said we haven't struggled in football? LOL. I think we have more than not. No, I haven't said that you haven't struggled in football. I'm just saying compared to a lot of the other programs in the SEC, people make it seem like you are just a doormat in football every year and have been since the beginning of joining the SEC. That's what I think is dumb. And that's what I do not agree with. But a lot of people try to. That's my argument. Not that Arkansas has never struggled. Because, yes, of course they've struggled. They've had some really bad years. But to act like that ever since joining the SEC, they've just been not competitive whatsoever is dumb. It's a cyclical thing. There were times where, a team like Ole Miss and Mississippi State, bottom of the barrel. Kentucky, bottom of the barrel. South Carolina struggled a lot, bottom of the barrel. Missouri, bottom of the barrel. A lot of programs have gone through it. It's just unfortunate because right now, over the course of the past 10 years, Arkansas has had their worst of it. That's the deal that is really stinky. So, no, of course they've struggled. It's just not as bad as what people try to make it out to be. All right. Well, folks, it is time for your Arkansas update presented by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owner's insurance agency, securing what matters the most. And for said update, it's just closed out my document of the whole thing that I had written up there. For your Arkansas updates, Hagen Smith, congratulations to him, as he was named a semifinalist for the Golden Spikes Award, which I love Hagen Smith, and he is the best pitcher in all the land, but I don't think he's going to be – I don't think he's going to get it. I don't think he's going to get it. There's a couple other players that are having just stupid seasons compared to what he's doing. But, yeah, the fan voting begins today, and then June 3rd is when the semifinalist fan vote ends. June 5th is when the finalists are announced, which I believe Hagen Smith will be a finalist. But on the 22nd of June, whenever the fan voting goes around and the award winner is announced, I still believe that it's going to be somebody else. I love the fact that Hagen's in the mix. He should be, but it'd just be a tall order for him to win it. Because even if he did, imagine if he did. Imagine if Hagen Smith won the Golden Spikes. That'd be Dave Van Horn has had 3 Golden Spikes winners in less than 10 years. 3 Golden Spike winners in less than 10 years. I'm hopeful, but not that hopeful. But also in some other news, too, Dave Van Horn met with the media today to preview a little bit of the SEC tournament and was asked about pitching, and Ben Bybee's getting the start. Here's what he had to say about that, as well as the other pitching rotations that they're going to be looking at.
Just Coach Hobbs and I just decided to start him. I think that Brady hasn't thrown for a while. Ben threw the other day and threw the ball over the plate, threw pretty well. And, you'll probably see Brady sometime this week. Hopefully we win some games and get into it a little bit and get to use them all. Yeah, he'll be on a pitch counter. We'll just kind of monitor how it's going and, shorter than longer. I mean, we're not going to leave him in because we have available arms. It's not like we're getting to the end and, we're trying to get another inning out of somebody or a few more outs. If it's going great, we'll leave him in till a certain count. If it's not going great early, then we'll get him out sooner than later. So, he's throwing the ball well, throws it over the plate, makes you earn it a little bit, and that's what you want.
So that was Dave Van Horn getting excited about the upcoming SEC tournament. Credit to Big Trail Nation for that video. And also the fact that you have pretty much solidified yourself as the national seed. I'm going to be curious to see how the guys coming in after Ben Bybee or in the next day, if Arkansas advances, just how it's all going to be handled and what they're going to do. But either way, exciting times if you're a Razorback fan for baseball. And that is your Arkansas update presented by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owners insurance agency, securing what matters the most. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about postseason and what I believe is the most difficult sport in college to advance in postseason play. May surprise you, my answer, but stay with us. We'll get to that and more on the other side of the break here on the John Nabors Show, live from Natty State Sports Studios.
We not done yet either, so don't be satisfied. We not done.
Hey John, Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrats. I added 2-parter if that's okay. You mentioned Arkansas. Eric.
Why do you always talk about Arkansas? But go ahead.
Well, why do you always talk about Kentucky?
You missed it. You missed it. You missed it. Just tell me you missed it. I'm not going to go there with you, Dave. Why not?
And that will be the last question I answer with that hat on.
Oh, shoot.
That is why Arkansas is fantastic.
Yes, sir.
And I didn't like the game, but I'm glad I was able to walk off the floor again and deep inside and have that funny feeling that, hey, one more time, Horn.
Best guys, I know it's a tough time for you. The coach is gone, but you got a new coach now, and you got to listen to what he says. Okay, I know you're thinking, oh, who is this new guy? Where's the other guy that crashed the motorcycle? We like him better. He was cool or whatever. Forget about all that. Listen to the new coach and get out there and win some games.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks. You guys act like it's... Pick it up a little bit. Okay? Get your chin up. Smile. Smile. Okay? Dang, you guys, all right? If not, I'm not talking.
Big Red, so excited. Big Red. Oh.
Guys, I got just one thing I want to say to you. Touchdown, Arkansas!
I was a teacher today. Told those boys, welcome to the SEC.
Well, Fayetteville is 1,843 miles away, but the call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
I'm gonna stick my dick in the mashed potato. Go Hogs.
Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas.
Every time you put a mic in my face, I'm gonna say Arkansas.
The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
All right, welcome back into the John Nabors Show here live from the Natty State Sports Studios. Appreciate everybody listening in. We're going to have Jake Crain of Crain Company of the Daily Wire talking about college football with us here after a while, as I know we're pretty excited about hearing from him as well as other things going on in college sports. Not just Arkansas, but other things in college football too. But wanted to relay this message too before we get into the postseason talk I wanted to bring up. Got a new design of the website of nattystatesports.com. So you better be sure to check it out. Scotty did a great job. Scotty Bordelin of Natty State Sports did a great job of putting in a new design of it and teetering with some things too. So check it out. It's great. I even wrote an article on there today. I wrote it. So yeah, check it out. Also, a few questions that got thrown in here. This is David says, what is that tune? That tune is actually from, I believe, Django Unchained. During the break, that little tune right there at the end is from Django Unchained, which is a great movie, one of my favorites. And I always pay that little tune as a homage. That was my first intro of my own show, which ironically today, it's a lot of stuff kind of flowing well. Today is 10 years ago today was my very first job I ever got hired to host a show with. 10 years ago is when I got hired to host my very first radio show a decade ago. Man, I'd worked in radio a little bit beforehand, but it's just crazy to think about that. It's been a decade since I got into this business, but I've been very blessed to do what I do and to be able to do this at Natty State Sports. This is awesome. So, but long story short and long answer to that, yeah, it's from that. Kevin says Texas A&M is making noise about going to the Big Ten. They will make more money, big A&M money. People are behind this move if it happens. They don't want to be in the same league as Texas. Okay, here's the thing, Kevin. I'm not saying you're wrong, but if A&M's doing that, A&M's a bunch of morons, and they can go on. They can leave. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Because I guarantee you the SEC will laugh at them if they're like, we're going to the Big Ten. All right. Good luck. Because regardless of what A&M wants to say, even though A&M has a huge fan base and a lot of money, as we know, they ain't Texas. And if you had to choose between, and business-wise, if you had to choose between Texas or Texas A&M, you're choosing Texas. So, again, if A&M wants to do that, have at it. Go crazy. Enjoy yourself. Also, about postseason play. I want to bring this up real quick before we get to Jay Crain. So, I was looking at the previous years with college baseball and knowing how the field of 64 works, if you want to call it that way. I was looking at how the postseason is such a crapshoot, man. It is so crazy in baseball. We all know that. A number one overall seed has not won since 99 when Miami did it. We've seen teams like Ole Miss a couple years ago be the last team in and make a run and win it all. We've seen teams that I didn't even know had a baseball program make a runs. I always think about Stony Brook making a runs. It is insane how baseball is. And basketball and March Madness has kind of been the same thing. But I wanted to ask y'all, I want to get y'all's thoughts on this. In the college landscape of postseason, which is the toughest postseason to navigate through, the toughest postseason to advance in? I'm not talking about getting to the postseason. I'm talking about once you're in the postseason, which of the major college sports, at least, are the toughest to advance in? Because the two that always pop up to me are basketball and baseball. Football I put out there, and I'd say I know it's expanding to 12 teams, and it's only been 4. So I know it has its own difficulties, but maybe when it gets to 12, we'll have a better idea of it. But I believe with baseball and basketball having virtually the same amount of teams, but being so staunchly different and difficult for their own reasons, it really comes down to those two. So I laid out some reasons here. And it's kind of what I thought about it when it comes to, we'll start with basketball, with March Madness. Now, basketball, what makes it really difficult for me is you got one game, one and done. That's it. If you have a bad game, you're toast. If you do not play your best game, you're done for. And that element of it is pretty gnarly because like football, it makes sense to play one game because they're so spread out and all that. But basketball, you're talking about, and in the NBA, you have 7-game series to decide who's the best team. And because of that fact, more often than not, the best team doesn't always win the championship. It happens sometimes. But because of a team that how many teams have we seen be the best team in college basketball not win? I think back to that Kentucky team that went 38-0 in the Final Four and lost to Wisconsin. Wisconsin deserved to win. I'm not saying they don't. But that Kentucky team was the best team in all of college basketball. They were. But they didn't win. So I think because it's just one game and you're done, it makes it tough. But also something to factor in too, folks. Basketball, if you've ever been to an NCAA tournament game, the atmospheres and the setup is very strange. You're in a neutral court, some random place you probably haven't played before, in front of a hodgepodge group of fans. Some are rooting for you, some aren't. Your fan base has a little section, and that's about it. Sometimes you have to play in a football stadium, which is still criminal to me, which changes the entire thing. Because instead of playing actually on a court, on a level, you're on a high rise, essentially. So the conditions are usually different. And kind of going back to having one bad game, it also takes just one great game from the other team or from another player. If you got, what was it, when Kentucky played Oakland, and that one player for Oakland went like 9 of 13 from 3. It's like sometimes you're just like, geez. It's craziness. So that's kind of what I laid out for basketball. But baseball, let me be clear. I like baseball postseason. I really do. I appreciate baseball postseason. However, given the games and like I was trying to put it this way. I was trying to explain postseason baseball to my 11-year-old nephew, Oliver, who's just getting into sports. Took him to the Razorback baseball game. He loved it. And he's watched NFL playoffs. He's watched March Madness in basketball. And he was asking me about baseball post-playoffs. He called it baseball playoffs. And I was trying to explain it to him. And I could tell after talking with him, I'm like, I feel so bad because I am confusing him. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? If I hadn't have known, or just grown up with college baseball, it would confuse the crap out of me too. It's like, well, you have these things called regionals. And in regionals, you get to host, and it's a group of 4 teams at certain places, and it's double elimination. And whichever team ends up being above all that did not lose 2 games ends up advancing. Oh, okay. But then the next round, it's best of 3 against one team. Oh, all right. Well, that's fine. But yeah, but then when you get to the World Series, it's double elimination once again. Oh, except in the finals, then it's the best of 3. Like I was trying to explain to him, I'm like, yeah, that is kind of confusing. So, but because of that fact, it is a little bit weird because, it's always about what's the normalcy of going throughout the regular season. And in college baseball, 3-game series, weekends, 3-game series, weekends, a few midweeks here and there, but 3-game series on the weekends, 3-game series on the weekends. And then suddenly you're in a thing where it's like, all right, well, it's not a 3-game series in the weekends. It's double elimination. That's it. It's double elimination. And there'll maybe sometimes where you have to play 5 games in 36 hours. Jeez. having to rely on pitchers and everything. Like, it's insane. So that is done. Also, I think baseball seeding wise is a crapshoot. Like, there is no nonsense about seeding. Because if you're the number one overall seed, you're not always going to get the, quote, easier path to the College World Series, which is what they try to make it. Because, the 1 seed plays the 16 seed and the regional. Man, that does not matter. Like, it is just kind of rolling it out, rolling the dice and see what happens. So that's a problem. And it's like that changes the whole game. Like, there's so many times the best teams in college baseball do not win. Like Arkansas, and when they were 1 seed, I still go back to that Tennessee team of 2022. That team was stupid loaded, and they didn't make the World Series. So a lot of times it's just weird like that. It's very weird. Also, weather can sometimes play a part in it, and it can sometimes hurt teams or help teams. It's the only sport, really, in major sports that postseason play gets dictated by weather, rainouts, lightning delays, all that stuff. So to me, that's a big part of it. So I'm kind of torn between the two. I would say, though, the tougher one to navigate through actually is baseball. And the reason I'm going to say that, and if you're in the chat, I apologize because I forgot who tweeted it at me, but it was a great point, the same point that I was going to make. Because in baseball, there are times where your team and your best player doesn't play every game. For instance, when Arkansas goes into this postseason, their best player, without question, is Hagen Smith. And we're only going to see Hagen Smith once a weekend. Maybe 2 if it really gets stretched out. In basketball, you're always going to have your best player. I mean, assuming he's not hurt. But you're always going to have your best player out on the court. But in baseball, if your best player is a pitcher, you got to count on everybody else. So I think that's an element that maybe doesn't get looked at enough. Not having your starting pitcher out there can impact you in a negative way. So I'm going to go with baseball. I think the double elimination stuff is weird. I like how I really wish that there was a way they could make it to where all of the games were 3-game series. I do. Or something to where it's like, if you're, I don't want to say you get a bye week, but if you were like a national seed or like the top 16 seeds, like maybe the teams that are lower fight it out in 1-game playoffs to advance, and then you end up playing whoever that is. Like, maybe that would be kind of fun. But overall, it's just like seriously, Tennessee is the number 1 overall seed, or it's either going to be Tennessee or Kentucky is going to be the number 1 overall seed this year in the postseason for college baseball. Are you betting on them or the field? Every one of you going to bet the field. In fact, if I said I'll give you the top 3 seeds. The top 3 seeds in college baseball were the field. I think you're probably even taking the field again. That's wild. Not many sports can do that. Not many sports can do that. But baseball to me is the toughest one. Just a little fun little thing to bring up too. So, well, folks, I know that you've all been looking forward to this as well as I have. We have a very special guest. It's Jake Crain. He actually hasn't joined my show before, but I've known him a long time. We do karaoke together at SEC Media Days. Got to get him back into it. But talked a little college football with him, so let's go ahead and hear what Jake had to say today. All right, we know college football for the Arkansas Razorbacks is just 100 days away, and college football is always one of the best things that anybody can ever experience, especially in SEC country. So let's talk a little bit more, not only about Arkansas, but about the entire college football landscape as we go ahead and welcome in friend of the show and his very first time here on the John Nabors Show. It is Jake Crain. He is the host of Crain Company on the Daily Wire. And Jake, appreciate you joining us, man. How you doing this afternoon?
Well, John, as usual, it's good to talk to you, my friend. Congrats on everything you got going. Look, we're 100 days in now, getting close to college football season. Football season in general helps me sleep a little bit better at night. I'm ready for kickoff like all you guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know we are too, and that was kind of going to be my first question. When you hear just 100 days away, college football, or at least in this case, Arkansas football on a Thursday night's coming up. I mean, what kind of feeling does that change from going from 101 days to 100 days?
You know, again, it makes you feel a little bit better after being in the business. You know, I was coached in Division I for a little over half a decade and was over a decade coaching college football. It always seems to go fast during the quote unquote off season for the people that are involved in it, right? The players, the coaches, the staff members, the administrators. But for fans, it seems to take forever. I just think once you get below those triple digits, then it starts becoming real. And at the end of the day, when you look at this season, I mean, John, the amount of changes that we're seeing in college football in the landscape overall is just massive. So I'm excited to see it. Obviously, you got the EA Sports game dropping July 19th. But overall, man, going from a triple digits to double digits, then to single digits, and then I get to wake up on that glorious day and hear that toe meet that leather.
It's going to be amazing, man, and we can't wait for it. And of course, here in Arkansas, I'd like to say that fans are super pumped over across the board, and they're so excited about year 5 of Sam Pittman. But I just don't really want to say that because I know that that's not totally true. I mean, you're coming off of a 4-8 season, and some fans may have some excitement, but just not at what it has been before. But what do you just make of the current state of the Arkansas Razorback football team heading into this season, and now especially where you have 2 more teams in the SEC, and they're a team that not really many people are looking at, nothing exciting about them. Just what do you make of the state of them right now?
Well, look, I think, and you know, sometimes I catch some backlash from, you know, opposing fans of the teams I'm talking about, that the standard should never be lowered, right? It's time for Sam Pittman and this Razorback program to take that next step that we all thought they were going to take a lot earlier when the way he kind of came on the scene. And, you know, Arkansas has everything you need to have a winner. They have everything you need to have elite success, the resources, the tradition, the location, all of those things. And Sam Pittman, it felt like, and John, I'm sure 99% of your audience agrees, the Sam Pittman felt incredible from how he handles himself, kind of the country guy, you know, how that fit into Arkansas. But it hasn't come to fruition yet. And it hasn't come to fruition in a place where it'd be the last place I thought it wouldn't. And that's up front. That's the difference in Arkansas. We can talk about KJ Jefferson. We can talk about the skill position, but Sam Pittman should be superior to other places when it comes to the line of scrimmage. One, because he knows how to evaluate and bring guys in that can play at this level. We saw what he's done in his track record, but just the toughness that he exudes. That's been the most disappointing thing. It's one thing to lose, but it's another thing to lose being bad at what you should be the best at. If you're a team that shoots the three-pointer really well or has a coach that believes in shooting the three and you don't make a lot of threes, well, people are going to be pretty pissed off about it. So at the end of the day, the fit's nice. Sam Pittman's a great guy. When we go to SEC Media Days, he always talks to us. He's very transparent. But look, this is about winning, and he hasn't done the amount of winning that Arkansas fans, number one, expect, and number two, deserve. And when I look at this team and I look at this league, it's not getting any easier around you. And while I do think Taylor looks pretty good in the spring game, a little bit more of a nuanced thrower than what I expected, I don't think Arkansas is going to be good enough up front to reach the level that Arkansas fans expect in year 5. And, you know, again, it's like we say on the show, if I want to make everybody happy, I'd sell ice cream for a living, but that's not my job. My job is to analyze what's going on. So everybody's 0-0 right now. Everybody's excited. Maybe this is the year it turns around. But when I look at the dominoes and the way they're lined up for Arkansas, and I look at that schedule, and I look at the 2 monsters that are coming into the league, it doesn't smell like the cake's going to be really good when it comes out of the oven. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Sam Pittman then figure it out. I hope it's a great year for Arkansas. I think you guys are actually going to win the College World Series this year. I don't want to jinx you or anything. But as far as the football standpoint, I don't know. It just seems like it's going to be another average year, and that's going to lead to Sam Pittman being gone at Arkansas. And John, I mean, is it Bobby P time? I mean, are we going to go back to the world where Bobby Petrino, you know, comes trotting back in on the white horse? Hey, guys, I made some mistakes. Well, let me show how much I want to make it up to you.
Well, first off, you can't jinx the Razorbacks because of 2018 drop foul ball in the College World Series.
That's
There's
true.
nothing that's ever going to be more of a jinx. So don't worry about that. But a couple of things, though, that you mentioned I wanted to get to. First off, with the Petrino angle, I thought it was the most shocking thing ever to see Bobby Petrino back at Arkansas until John Calipari got hired at Arkansas in basketball. But just him coming back and being the offensive mind that he has been, I know that he's a guy that's been around for a bunch of different jobs, but what do you think he can do for Arkansas, for Taylor Green, for this offense? And in stepping in, assuming that Sam Pittman has given him full reign over it, can they make significant strides and significant jumps of improvement in this upcoming season, at least offensively?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, John. I think Bobby Petrino is the best coach on the staff, including Sam Pittman. for multiple reasons. If you look just from a play calling standpoint, what Bobby Petrino does the best, and the best offensive play callers do this, they call plays to set up other plays. Bobby Petrino is putting a Rubik's Cube together in the first quarter. It's kind of a magic act. He's showing you certain things to see how you react to them, because most likely the way you react in the first and second quarter is going to be the way you react in the third and fourth quarter. Lane Kiffin does the same thing. People always say, well, how can Lane Kiffin hold up the clipboard and know it's going to be a touchdown right when the ball snapped? Well, it's easy. He set your ass up 2 quarters ago. He knew that safety was going to come down. He knew he was going to bait him. So Bobby Petrino understands that. That's the first thing you have to get. The second thing is, I think Bobby P is one of the best at adjusting to his personnel. It's not just about my system. It's about how my system fits the players that I have. Because at the end of the day, Bobby Petrino is not throwing a pass. Bobby Petrino is not making a block. The players have to do that. So he can tailor his offense and what he wants to do in critical downs, 2nd and 3, 3rd and 4, hell, 1st and 10 at the end of the day. He's going to tailor that to what his players do best. Now, in a perfect world, you want all the perfect pieces that fit your system. But we're not living in a perfect world for Arkansas right now. So I think Bobby Petrino is kind of a little bit of a fail-safe in that category as well. And every ounce in the red zone that you give Bobby Petrino, he is going to take advantage of. That's where these guys make their money, John. You don't make your money moving the ball in between the 20s. You make your money in the red zone. You make your money as an offensive coordinator in the red zone by scoring touchdowns. You make your money as a defensive coordinator in the red zone by holding people to field goals. What Bobby Petrino does out of 11 and 12 personnel in the red zone, understanding the importance of the scheme, understanding the importance of having the power forward, which is the tight end, right? That Julius Randle type, that he's too fast for a linebacker to cover, but he's too big for a true DB to cover. In the red zone is where that rears its head. Bobby Petrino understands that, and that's why I'm telling you, I think there's a scenario in which the Arkansas offense looks very competent. The defense struggles once again. Sam Pittman is let go and Bobby Petrino becomes the head coach. I think there's a legitimate chance that that could happen this year. But as far as the offense, when you got Bobby P running it, I'm not worried.
Okay, so you brought it up, and this is a thing that a lot of Razorback fans have thought about. Say if that scenario happens and Sam Pittman is let go in the middle of the year, or he steps down, whatever, Petrino takes over, things kind of at least look good and prove whatever. Do you still think that if it came to the end of the year, Arkansas should hire Bobby Petrino as the head coach? Or do you feel like that's just a nice little thing to have interim-wise if something goes wrong, and then they start this new search from scratch? Like, how do you think that would play out if he took over as interim?
Well, again, I think it comes down to what the market bears, right? If that does happen and you feel like there's a coach that pops, like a Calipari, for instance, Arkansas fans thought there was no chance that, number one, Cal was really going to leave Kentucky. And then if he left Kentucky, it would actually be a legitimate possibility to go to Arkansas. I think if there's somebody out there, if that situation were to happen, that they think is a home run hire as the head coach, you go get them. But if there's not, and more than likely there's probably not going to be, John, now you look at the leverage that Bobby Petrino has. If that name, it's starting to, you heard his name a little bit last year. If they look good on offense this year, he's going to have more and more leverage. And at the end of the day, I understand how important character is. Nobody is saying that character is not important, but you know what's the most important and what can sweep stuff under the rug is winning. That's what. You win, and Bobby Petrino is able to go in there and do what I think he can do on this second go around. It's a second chance, right? It's the rise, like a phoenix from the ashes. The Bobby Petrino story. He's going to charities. He's handing out soup at soup kitchens and helping the homeless. He is redeemed in the blood. That doesn't matter as long as you win. And at the end of the day, if Bobby Petrino is the best option for Arkansas to become the next head coach, they need to hire Bobby Petrino, because at some point, these Arkansas fans got to get what they deserve now. All they do is show up and show out. I talked about this with Auburn a little bit. These fans deserve, I'm not saying you're going to win every game or you got to win a championship every 2 to 3 years, but it needs to be a whole hell of a lot better than it's been. And if Bobby Petrino is the best option in the market when you go to buy, you go buy Bobby Petrino, you get behind him, you get him a motorcycle, just keep him away from the volleyball team and everybody will be good.
Oh, yeah, that is the key, though. That is the kicker. Got to make sure that those things are established first. But we're speaking with Jake Crain here of Crain Company on the Daily Wire here on the John Nabors Show. Now, Jake, I thought it was really interesting, something you did on your show is talking about the cult-like phenomenon of college football and how it is a cult in a way. And you even mentioned what's the most cultish thing that your team does. And immediately when I thought of Arkansas, I was like, well, calling the Hogs is pretty cultish. I mean, it's not many people say woo pig suey very often, but when you refer to college football and in the cult-like behavior and going through the cults, just what would you say is the most cult-like behavior of college football, and maybe what's your favorite thing about the cult-like behavior from college football?
Well, the beautiful thing about it is there's so many cult-like things that happen. I mean, and not just in the SEC. You look at A&M, obviously. They line up at midnight to scream into the sky in the woods about their team. God knows what the animals think, but they believe that works, and it brings them together. You look at West Virginia. They burn furniture in the streets. Where I'm from in Auburn, we go buy out the town of toilet paper, not because the Salisbury steak at the local restaurant wasn't cooked all the way through, but because we're happy and we want to celebrate. Hell, an Alabama fan poisoned the tree in the middle of downtown Auburn next to the water supply where kids drink out of. At the end of the day, name me a national champion team or a top contending team that doesn't have a cult-like following, fan base, program, or whatever. It's a must. We're in an arms race. You have to have an army of people behind you. I've said it last year. I'll say it this year. Casuals don't win titles on the field or in the stands. If you do not have a rabid, crazy fan base behind you that is willing to do wild things, to call the hogs, to show up in droves at press conferences. Hell, Michigan packs 110,000 people every Saturday of the home games. We sent 133,000 troops to invade Europe on D-Day. We're basically doing D-Day every single Saturday in Ann Arbor during a home game. But that's what makes it beautiful, right? It's your way of life versus my way of life. And if you don't believe in it that much, or you don't have that much buy-in, or you're not a cult, then you're not going to win. The only part of the definition of cult that I disagree with in the dictionary when it comes to college football is it says that it's a misplaced love. Well, in this circumstance with college football, it is not a misplaced love. These college towns, Fayetteville, Auburn, Oxford, Tuscaloosa, Knoxville, they run on the football team. These communities run on the athletic program. So I think it's the best part about college football. I think it's the reason why Buffalo and Green Bay are the two most rabid, I think, fan bases in the NFL, or at least they have the best tailgates, is because that's a college town-like atmosphere. It's not in Dallas. It's not in LA. It's not in New York. It's in our little slice of paradise. And it's like I told Texas A&M fans, if they call you a cult, good. That's why I believe eventually y'all are going to break through. Y'all want it so bad. It's just a matter of time.
Well, you bring it up, and I think that it's amazing to see how college football has changed so much just over the past 3 years especially. But you talk about an era of decades where those traditions, those cult-like behaviors, it just really defined it and was there. And now people, at least that I've talked to, fans, they're kind of worried about the current state of college football and the direction it's going because of the NIL, because of transfer portal, all this stuff. Some of them are thinking like, oh, you know, all those great things that we loved about it, it seems to be going away and moving more towards professional type football like the NFL. Do you see it going that direction, or do you feel like, hey, the love, or at least the greatest things about college football will always remain, even if the way that the teams are put together on the college campuses are going to be different?
Well, look, I do think the more it becomes corporatized, the more it loses a little bit of that luster, that nostalgic feel. But, you know, I went to Starkville a couple weekends ago, and again, just going off my past experience, I think what makes the college town isn't just the relationship between the fans and the players, right? Well, you decided to go from Seattle to Fayetteville. You decided to go from your big city to our little slice of paradise. That bonds us, that connects us. But when you have a rotating door of players, you can't really form that connection. But to me, John, looking back at it, I think what makes this true connection, one, is obviously the way the team plays, and the product on the field right now, schematically, athletically, physically, is the best it's ever been. But it's these towns and communities, it's the fans that make it. It's those cult-like behaviors that make it more than just the relationship between the players and the fans. So I get, you know, the hole-in-the-wall barbecue theory. What makes the hole-in-the-wall barbecue places so good is that they're not these big, huge corporate, you know, chain restaurants. I understand that, but I think there's so many other things that are going well for college football right now. And that connection between the fans and the school, right, especially on game day, I don't see that going away anytime soon. And to me, that's the engine that drives kind of the love of college football, or that connection or that drive.
Well, Jake, I know another big story that happened, which worked out perfectly to have you on the show here today, was dealing with college football, something that has nothing to do with Arkansas, but still pretty fascinating in the landscape of college football. And that is the story of Jaden Rashada, who was the former quarterback that was going to Florida. There was this big NIL stuff happening. Of course, he didn't end up there, and it was pretty dramatic. But the latest is that he has now filed a massive NIL lawsuit against Florida's Billy Napier, as well as Mega Boosters and former Gator staffer. So we've talked about it, but what do you make of this story? Is it going to set some sort of precedence? And how does this just look not only for Rashada, but also for Billy Napier and the Florida Gators?
Yeah, well, we're actually opening up the show here on Crain Company at 2 p.m. Central with it. There's no way this is going to come out being a good look for Billy Napier in Florida. Now, the University of Florida isn't named in the lawsuit that Rashada put out. It's Billy Napier, is two other individuals and a company that the Hathcock individual owned, and I believe he sold. But I hope what comes from it is that it leads to a precedent that leads to some sort of rules. The truth is we're molding this ball of clay as we go. There's going to be problems that pop up. I almost wonder if this was a necessity, like this had to happen to get this situation buttoned up. Now, we can get into the weeds of who signed what, who promised who what, is that legally binding? But if you're Florida, at the end of the day, one of two things is going to happen. One, Billy Napier is going to have a bad year, and maybe you can use this as a loophole to fire him for calls and not have to pay the buyout, a true Jeremy Pruitt situation. That gets rid of the black cloud, that gets rid of the problems associated with the school because Billy would be gone. What I find interesting in this whole thing is I think Jaden Rashada needs to become the biggest Florida Gator fan of all time. People say, Jake, what do you mean? Well, if Florida does really well and they have to keep Billy Napier, they want to sweep this under the rug, which means what? A settlement, which means Jaden Rashada may not get all of what he's wanting, but he'll get some of it. If Billy Napier gets fired for calls without that buyout money, I think this thing's going to be litigated so long. I don't think Rashada is going to end up really getting that much if he gets anything from a settlement down the road between Napier, the two individuals, and the company. So in a weird way, Jaden Rashada needs to hope Florida beats Miami, hope they have a heck of a year so he can get this settlement. They can push this on the raft and send it down the river. Now, as far as you know, the look, Jesse Simonton had a great tweet from On3 Sports. We're having him on here shortly. He said the irony of Florida being sued by the now backup quarterback at Georgia is not only hilarious, but what's even funnier is that they'll face no penalties from the NCAA because of a lawsuit victory that Tennessee won against the NCAA earlier in the year. So, look, it's chaotic. It is. It's a mess. It's a bad look. What I'm going to say on the show is right now, Billy Napier looks like Matilda's dad, and that's never a good look when you're dealing with recruiting.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And I liked your tweet where you said no recruit is worth $13 million, by the way.
No, John, high school recruit. Yeah. I had some people say, oh, well, Johnny Manziel made $300 million from Texas A&M. I'm not talking about Johnny Manziel. If Cam Newton would have said, hey, Auburn, I'm thinking about coming back in 2011, he is worth $13 million. That is a proven commodity. There is no high school player coming out of high school in the sport of football that is worth $13 million. I don't care if it's over 4 years. I don't care if it's over 1 year. So it was stupid by Florida in the first place. And the way they handled it was dumb. Now, that's why you see in the NFL, that second contract is way more than the first one. Why? You're a proven commodity. That's why you see players in the transfer portal getting paid more NIL money than high school seniors. Why? Because you're a proven commodity. There's projection, and then there's proven commodity. So Florida screwed up 13 different ways here, but in no way, shape, form, or fashion is a high school recruit in the sport of football, a high school recruit, worth $13 million.
Well, see, and that was going to be my point, too, is I've been saying it for especially like a place like Arkansas. Do you need to do high school recruiting? Sure. But when it comes to the NIL budget, it needs to go to that transfer portal. Just yes. Hammer that like crazy, because that, to me, not only is a better recipe for success, because most of the time you at least have proven commodities, but also at a place like Arkansas where you don't have the greatest in-state talent coming out of high school for every single year. And you know that there's always players looking for better deals that are going to be getting into the portal. To me, $13 million should never even be thought about. I don't know what the amount of money is for a high school recruit or what the threshold should be, but to me, go into the transfer portal if you're going to spend that big money, because that's what's going to make you successful faster, and you won't have to pay $1 million for a player that may transfer out the next year that didn't even get to play this past season.
Yeah, you want to pay $2 million for Cam Ward, go do it. Why? Because I know when Cam Ward steps on this field, what's about to happen, right? And he's played at this level. It doesn't make sense for a high school recruit. And when it comes to the transfer portal, John, here's what I say. In my opinion, the perfect recipe with the transfer portal to high school recruit, it's obviously circumstantial, right? If you just took over the job, you need to start off hot. You may need to lean more on the transfer portal early. But once you get it cooking, you need to plug holes in the ship with the transfer portal. You don't need to build the ship out of the transfer portal. I don't think it's going to work at Colorado. I think Lane Kiffin has pressed it as far as he can go at Ole Miss. We'll see how that works out. But the mercenary for hire year over year over year over year, I don't think works in this sport.
No, I'm with you on that one. And I will say the last thing before I let you get out of here, Jake, I'm not sure. So I didn't ask you about this before we started this interview. But first off, have you ever been to Fayetteville in your life?
I have driven through Fayetteville. I have never stopped in there. I have never once I went to the Starkville, went to Starkville to watch the Mississippi State baseball game, was tweeting about the dude and all that stuff. I had a ton of Arkansas fans like, bro, you got to come down to Fayetteville, come down for a game. Let us show you it's a lead here at the Bomb too. So no, I got to get down there, John. And when I'm down there, I expect to have maybe a cold soda or two with you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I was going to say that with Razorback baseball and the regionals that they're going to be in, super regionals are going to be hosting here over the next few weekends. If you have some time to make a quick trip over, let me know. We can.
I may sneak down there. I may get a sneak peek.
Yeah, we can hook you up with it, man, and it'll be a lot of fun. But hey, either way, college football though, still on the mind, still going to be a lot of fun. Yep. And Jay Crain does a great job with Crain Company of the Daily Wire. As always, man, it's good talking with you. Appreciate you joining us, and I know we'll be catching up with you later down the road. All right, my man?
Yeah, for sure, John. Thanks for having me. I'm really proud of you. You do a heck of a job. I know your listeners know that. Always rooting for you as well. I'll definitely see you during SEC Media Days, and we're going to get you on Crain Company here soon, my friend.
All right, there you have it. There was Jay Crain of Crain Company, as we talked a little college football with him, and it's always good to catch up with him, and he has some interesting takes, and he has a lot of passion about college football, and that's what I appreciate about him. But either way, it's always good to hear from him and what they have going on overall over there in doing their live streams and everything too, so on their show. But we'll have to get him on more often. But as a reminder, folks, tomorrow we're actually going to have former Razorback running back Jonathan Williams on the show. So that'll be really fun. We'll have an interview with him and also Barrett Salee about Kick the Coverage. It's going to be great to talk with him. So anyways, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll get into hey, did y'all see this here in just a second? I see a lot of your comments coming in about some of the stuff that Jake Crain had to say. Some of it was kind of mean or whatever, but let's see. There was one that I was going to bring up, and I'm going to scroll through it all. When he talks about the linebacker room and everything. Yeah, I mean, that was a problem for Arkansas and has been, but I think overall, though, the linebackers for Arkansas since Pittman arrived have been pretty solid. You know, like, if you think about it, like, you had guys like Drew Sanders, which may arguably been the best one, but even the years when you had Grant Morgan, Bumper Poole, Hayden Henry, like, that was really good. None of them were, next level pro athletes, but still pretty solid college linebacker room. And then you also throw in the aspect of not only Drew Sanders, but you've had Chris Pupal. I know he's not here anymore, but you had Chris Pupal, who was a young and up-and-coming bright spot. I think Xavion Sori might be a huge factor this year too. So, again, the whole linebacker room in general has been really, I shouldn't say really good, has been solid over there too. So, but yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And we talk about we're going to talk about the Rasheda story here in a second too. In fact, I'll just save it for that. Thomas says, I love when John goes into his podcast voice for interviews. Do I have a podcast voice that I go into for interviews? Like, if I do, I have not noticed it. I'm going to be honest. I mean, there's going to be different inflections. Like, there's differences of when you talk to yourself or to a camera and when you talk to actually somebody that's actually there and asking them questions. But, yeah, I didn't know I had a voice, but that's funny if you thought so. Heartbroken Hog says, John, you need to get on Crain Company. Those guys are my boys. I'm basically the resident Razorback on the show. Well, good. Yeah, no, they're good people, and they do a really good job of what they do. So, yeah, I appreciate it. And then Sean comes in with the take. He says, if Bobby is the best option, we are never going to get out of the cellar in the SEC. I refuse to believe BP is the best option. My goodness, this is ridiculous. Well, I mean, I'm not saying that he is the best option, but I think that there could be a lot worse options. I think we haven't even gotten to that point yet. Like, we got to, for crying out loud, we got to wait and see what happens with Arkansas this season. Like, that's going to be the kicker. We'll see what happens this season, and then we can go from there, all right? Then we can start throwing some stuff around. But just wait. But I will say that there's some other stuff we got to get to. But I want to talk about this Jaden Rashada storyline. So this comes from ESPN.com and the reporting that they have. It said a former University of Florida recruit, Jaden Rashada, is suing Coach Billy Napier, along with big-time Gator booster and others, claiming they defrauded him out of millions of dollars by backing out of the promised $13.85 million guarantee and agreement that the quarterback had turned down offers tied to other programs. The lawsuit includes that the allegation that Rashada signed his national letter of intent to Florida on December 21st of 2022, less than an hour after Napier promised the player's father $1 million partial payment that day upon signing. Rashada never received the $1 million, and the boosters never fulfilled the deal. The lawsuit, of course, states. Rashada is the first known college athlete to sue his coach or a booster in dispute of the name, image, and likeness deal. So we'll see what happens here. I know there's a lot of things that have to go through it all. But as Jake said, and as I've said, and I just still am baffled by it, there is never a player that is worth $13 million coming out of high school. Never. Never, 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 never. I don't know what the going rate would be. I don't know what's the maximum that I say you should spend on high school recruits. But you're talking about a player that odds are when he walks through the door, he's not ready to play big-time college football because very few freshmen are able to play at the elite level of college football. So I would say that would be my first thought. And the second thought is if you're throwing around this much money to him, like what was your overall budget? Well, I guess it was over budget because that is a money that you never paid him. Dicey situation, bad look for Billy Napier, bad look for Florida. And I think the funniest thing about it is I saw that this was a report that Jaden Rashada went and asked Kirby Smart. He's like, Coach, is it okay if I go through with this lawsuit? And Kirby Smart was like, I support you in what you do. It's like, yes, of course it is. Are you kidding me? Anything to make your teams and your other rivals in the division look bad, he's going to go and do it 100%. So, yeah, I thought that was great. I thought it was really funny that it's going to be that having that, but still, $13.85 million for Jaden Rashada? Like, that would be the ultimate question. Which player right now in college football would you pay nearly $14 million for? Like right now, coming up this season. I don't know many that I would. In fact, I don't even know if I could say one player is worth that much money. So, crazy, wild story. Also in some other news, some fun news. Maryland Eastern Shore finishes the baseball season of 2024 with 0 wins and 48 losses. The fact that they had a team go 0-48 in baseball is pretty astounding. Apparently, the person that was talking about him, Walter Skeeter, was talking about how UMES should be embarrassed for jettisoning this team out of the sea like this. Yeah, it's tough to go 0-48. 48 straight losses. It says they lost 48 times. They lost 48 times for the most losses in a season without a win by a Division I team since 2009. They allowed 567 runs while just scoring 202. That's sad. I hate that for the players. I hate that for the coaches. It should never be that way. But boy, when you go over, it's going to get the attention of a lot of people. And also, did you see this? Chris Davis. I remember Chris Davis of Kick Six fame from Auburn and Alabama back in 2013. Auburn has offered his son a scholarship because he's part of the 2028 class. His son, Chris Davis III. And everyone's talking about how old you feel. Yeah, you feel old. That Chris Davis has a son that is already getting scholarship offers. Time moves. Life moves pretty fast. was it? If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you might miss it. I think it's from Ferris Bueller. So, yeah. So I thought that was a great story. And also this story too, this made me laugh because it's like so shocking to some. An internet investigator has discovered this big breaking news that big-time D1 athletes take easy majors. This person's like saying, NCAA buzzer beaters and game winners. Says, I discovered something fishy going on with the Houston men's college basketball team with their majors. Health promotions, sports administration, and electrical engineering. I laugh about this because I'm like, you mean stop traffic? But you mean to tell me that D1 big-time college athletes kind of skimp a little bit on their education, or at least on their academics, like they're not going to be doctors and lawyers? Whoa. This just in. I just laugh when stuff like this is like, it's like this whole, oh my goodness. Can you believe it? Yeah, I can. And I don't blame them. Besides, what do you care? It's their education. They can major in whatever they want. They're on scholarship. As long as they're eligible, who cares? That's been my whole thing. Like, I have never understood people's, like, approach to this when it comes to academics and major student athletes. Because my thing is, I'm like, hey, if you actually, you know what? I'll tell you this story. I'm not going to name the player's name because I don't want to, do it without his permission. But a former, not unnamed Razorback football player came to Arkansas, and this was under the Bobby Petrino days. And they had a meeting when they first got there with the academic advisor, with the program and all that. And essentially what was discussed is, what you need to have, blah, blah, blah. And then after that, Petrino said, if you want to be a doctor, we'll help you be a doctor. If you want to be a lawyer, we'll help you be a lawyer. I need you eligible. I don't care what it is you do. I don't care what your major is. I do not care. I need you eligible. And that was it. So that's really how the mindset needs to be. And for me too, because I always would get so irritated during certain times with certain regimes where they constantly be tweeting out the GPA of the football team. I don't give a rip. As a fan, I do not care what the GPA is of the athletic pro. Great. I'm glad they're getting good grades, but they're getting their taints handed to them out on the field. Who's that serving? So, anyways, I just laughed when I saw that. I was like, yeah, welcome to major college sports. Who would have guessed? So, but folks, that does it for me. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching into the John Nabors Show. Be sure to like and subscribe to all the things going on at Natty State Sports. You can subscribe to not only our social media accounts, but also our new and improved website. We're constantly doing some new designs and trying to change it up and squeak that up. And said Scotty did a great job on it too. So we'll talk about that and continue to update that too. So check out the website and everything that we got going on here at Natty State Sports. And remember, same sports show, same sports time tomorrow afternoon. Have a great rest of your evening. We'll see you then, folks.